Hi, I'm Raynor Winn and this is my book, The Salt Path. The Salt Path is the story of a walk that I took with my husband, Moth, following probably the worst week of our lives when we lost everything and he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. I didn't know at the point we decided to walk that it was going to be 630 miles or that it would have an ascent equivalent to climbing Everest nearly 4 times. But walking in a wonderful strip of wilderness between the land and the endless horizon of the sea had a redemptive power that we could never have imagined. I'm here in Waterstones, Piccadilly, and I'd like to tell you about 3 books that have influenced me in my writing and my life. The first one is Eric Newby, Love and War in the Apennines. Like most of Eric Newby's books, this is a travel adventure book, but for me it stands out amongst the others because it's a memoir of his experiences during the Second World War. So it was sort of 1942 and he and some other soldiers are about to rendezvous with a British submarine, but they miss their trip, and they get picked up by a fishing boat and imprisoned for a year in an orphanage in the Po Valley in Italy. The other soldiers manage to escape with the Italian armistice, but Eric gets left behind because he's injured. He's rescued by an Italian doctor, and while he's in hospital, Wanda comes and gives him Italian lessons and they fall in love. You could say this is a book just about gratitude to the people that risk their lives saving him, but it's more than that. It's funny, it's exciting, it's a love story, and it's just a great book. I love it. So now we're here in the fiction section, and I'd like to show you The Women's Room by Marilyn French. Now this is a book that possibly changed my life. I bought this when I was a teenager, so in the late 70s, when we just got our first female Prime Minister, but equality in ordinary everyday life was still a long way off for most women. So this is the story of Myra. She's a housewife in the 1950s in America, at a time when women were expected to be a housewife and a mother and nothing else. So she's been married to Norm for many years and he divorces her. She thinks her life's completely over and tries to commit suicide, but she doesn't die, she lives. And rather than nothing in her future, she goes to university. And there, when she's there, she meets a group of feminist activists who change her life, change her beliefs, change everything. Now this has been really criticised for portraying men as the enemy, but to me that's not the message that came from this book. For me it was that the only thing holding women back from having and doing and being everything that they wanted to be was themselves and their acceptance of inequality. And it changed many women's lives and gave them the courage to live life on their own terms. So to me it's a really important book. Okay, so finally we're here now in the poetry section, and I'd like to show you a really unusual little book. This is Who Said the Race Was Over by Anno Birkin. You might not find this too easy to get hold of, but it's worth searching for. I found my first copy on a seat in a railway station, and as I sat and flicked through it, it didn't just draw me in, it dragged me in by this sort of powerful young voice that seemed to be like screaming in a whisper. It was an amazing book. Anno was a poet and a musician, and he'd been rehearsing with his band Kicks Joy Darkness, and they were driving home in their car when it crashed, and Anno and 2 of the other band members were killed. So this anthology was put together by his family after he died. But it's worth reading. It's got a energy to it. It's sort of like a raw naivety, but sort of polished at the same time. And although it's a lot of his poems are completely personal, there's a sort of universality about them that anybody can relate to. And I don't read a lot of poetry, and when my first copy fell apart, I had to buy a new one, and it's a book I'm always going to have with me.